Hi, my name is Julio, and Covenant Eyes has sponsored this video. Unfortunately, right now, 68% men who go to church has viewed pornography regularly. 76% Christian people from the age of 18 to 24 also has viewed pornography regularly. Right now, the porn industry makes more money than baseball, basketball, and football industries. The porn industry also gets more viewers than Amazon, Twitter, and Netflix. Some time ago, I had an issue with pornography, and what I ended up doing was looking into Covenant Eyes. It was introduced to me by a pastor at my church. First of all, it was kind of weird. I didn't want to do it, but Covenant Eyes blocked the internet access that I was having to sites that were wrong, that were bad, that were showing things that I wasn't supposed to be seeing as a born-again Christian. And then what also would happen was, if I did go into anything like that, it would send an email to the pastor also, or anyone who you would want to be your ally. And so what happens is they hold you accountable. So you guys would then talk about those things. If you guys were to join Covenant Eyes today we have a code for you. You'll get a free month of Covenant Eyes. If you use Wake 'em Up Ministry, there will be a link provided in the description, and that would help you out. I definitely please pray that you prayerfully consider subscribing to Covenant Eyes to get your help that you would need, and also to protect your children.
In the United States, it was a couple years, it was back in, I think, the 80s, they came out with a statement. We had our first Buddhist Marine. I don't know if you could really be a good Buddhist if you're a Marine, because you signed up to, and when you sign up to the military, you sign up to kill. I'm sorry, that's what you do. You're going to be a soldier.
Come to that, yeah.
It doesn't mean you're going to do that, but it means it could come to that.
Absolutely.
And then, it's morality. They don't necessarily believe that in this concept of good and evil again. So we're kind of back on that fence of
similar to atheism.
Yes.
Yeah.
In which we get the other thing called situational ethics. So it's a tough road to be on.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the thing is, though, it's kind of funny because you're not supposed to cause any suffering to anybody. So why would that be? That would have to be wrong. You're not supposed to kill something, right? Like a bug or an animal, but so that would be wrong, right? Because that could potentially stop you from reaching the enlightened stage. So those are kind of things that I would bring up, to these people's attention. And by the way, we killed insects, even unintentionally sometimes, And what about this? What about if a person came up, or they seen a person in need, and they didn't reach that need, and they're able to reach the need, So now they're causing suffering now because they could have fed that person, but now that person's not going to eat because of them. So it's weird things.
This is where the Buddhists, their whole journey is about themselves. I'm not going to say the Christian's journey isn't all about themselves too, but the Christian's journey has a responsibility to others as well. Whereas the Buddhist journey is a responsibility only to themselves. And that's a sorry statement when you think about it, because so many people get cut out.
Yeah, which is really, really weird. Yeah, it's a real selfish one when you think about it. What do Buddhists think about Jesus, the Jesus from the Bible?
Well, he was a good guy, but nothing more. They don't really consider anything. They don't consider him as a god. They don't consider him as a prophet. He's just a guy that was around.
Wow. So they don't argue the fact that currently Buddhists now wouldn't say that he didn't exist. They say
there's too much evidence.
So they even would agree also that he did exist.
Yes.
Okay. So then I would make my point again, how I love to stack up leaders of different religions, that Jesus does miracles that I know of, Buddha does none. That Jesus resurrected from the dead, that I know of, Buddha did not. So I would do all these stacks against that Buddhist. And also, too, how the Old Testament has over 300 prophecies about Jesus in the New Testament that are fulfilled in Jesus, where he would be born, that he would die and resurrect on the third day, that Jesus, one of the disciples, would betray him. All kind, and even more, way more, prophecies that come to true in the New Testament. So those are the kind of claims that I would put, that I love to do with people that believe in different religions or different people. It helps out definitely. So what do Buddhism or people that are Buddhists believe about the afterlife? What are their thoughts about that?
To them, the majority of them are just simply going to be reincarnated. They expect to become the next human. More of them, Buddhists tend to believe they'll become another human, which is interesting. Versus the Hindus, you can become a thing, you can become a plant, you can become anything. Buddhists can accept that you can become another living creature. Depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah.
So you want one of the interesting things to ask them is what is their concept of reincarnation.
Exactly.
So you want to find out, do they believe they can become a thing, or any living thing, or just humans?
Yeah.
I find that differs between Buddhists that I talk with.
Yeah.
And it's not saying that. I'm just saying that those are my encounters. I'm not saying that is necessarily the faith that they have. It's an interesting place. I mean, their afterlife that they really are seeking is the end of existence, and that's a hard place to be.
Yeah. I think too, when I think about that, so at their very best, the best possibility that's going to happen to someone who is Buddhist is that they're going to reach nirvana or the enlightened stage, and there's a good big nothingness. But at the other end, the other thing that's going to happen is part of the reincarnation, and they got to try again to do everything all over again. And again, that stems from the Hindu belief. The Hindu belief has a similar of reincarnation that I know of anyway. And so my thing is that what I put with people too, when I ask them, I say, so what were you before? If you believe in Buddhism or in Hindu, what were you before this? Before who you are now? Usually they say they don't know. Usually they say, I don't know. I say, okay, how are you going to learn what to do different now? Because it's a curse to be reincarnated. So how are you going to learn to do something differently now if you don't know who you were before? So those kind of questions start to provoke them and think. And I tell them straight up, this is why I don't believe this ideology. This is why I don't believe this, because of that. And then I go into the gospel message. Yeah. So how do you think would be good ways for us to be able to give the gospel and share our faith with somebody who is a Buddhist?
Well, I think the most important thing is, in this case, they have no understanding of the suffering of Christ.
Yeah.
That we have a God that died for us. They might have heard some tale of it. They have no concept of the amount of suffering that Christ went through.
Yeah.
They don't understand that he was whipped multiple times.
Yeah.
That we're not talking about just a whip. We're talking about there were little pieces of glass and stuff at the end of those whips.
Yeah.
That they shredded his skin.
Yeah.
They don't understand that there was a crown of thorns. And they think, okay, a little small thorn. No, these were big honking thorns that they shoved on his head. They might understand that he was nailed to the cross, but they don't think about, again, there's another thing in this where, if you understand things medically, he died from what was called a pneumothorax, where his water and his blood filled his lungs,
mm-hmm.
and it was crushing him and killing him, and extremely, extremely painful. And it's considered one of the most painful deaths known to man, is the cross. So suffering, and yet we have a man who was our God, Jesus, who was willing to go through suffering to save us.
Amen.
I think that is the picture to leave them with the blood of Christ.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think they have a grasp. I really don't think they have a grasp of what suffering truly is in that respect.
Yeah. And it's really explaining in detail too, I would add, of why Christ suffered, right? He suffered so that we could be forgiven, so that we could become the children of God, so that we could be right with God, and showing them too that, humanity in and of itself, we're selfish people. If we all struggle and battle that of making life our way or isolating ourselves, but Christ wants us to come to a place where we acknowledge, man, that we failed this God that created the universe and everything, and the only way that we're reconciled and we're right with this God is by accepting Christ, what he did for us on the cross. And so that even too, just speaking this kind of way, I mean, it's the truth of what we believe of the gospel of Scripture. That right there, I believe the Holy Spirit will work in the person's heart, because we're called to give the gospel. We're called to preach the good news to all creation. So that doesn't matter what people believe. And so now I'm going to let the Lord do the rest within that person,
We're there to plant seeds.
We're there to plant the seeds. Yeah,
and God gets the glory. So it's up to Him what happens from that point on.
Yeah, but you got to get the seeds. You got to plant them. Yeah. So guys, we thank you for joining us, and we thank you for being here with us. Please be encouraged. Please share any comments of any other ways that we could share our faith with someone who believes in, that they're Buddhist. So God bless you. We'll catch you on the next one. See ya.